Genshin Impact patch 2.3 is here, and with it we have the rerun of Albedo, Eula, and 2 new characters, Arataki Ito and Goro, coming later in the patch. I'm going to talk about all 4 characters, where their strengths are, what we know so far about the 2 new characters, who you should be pulling on, depending on what character fits your needs more. First things up, let's talk about Albedo. He is a off-field Geo support character who scales with defense for his elemental skill and with attack for his burst. He's a weird character. The mainstay damage you're going to be getting from him is with his elemental skill, so you're going to be building him with defense. He's kind of an all-purpose character, but he has a lot of problems. Some of them being certain bosses, his elemental skill will not work, and that's the majority of the damage that you can do with him, such as the water boss. Storm Terror does not work with his elemental skill. There's a few others, I believe. Some of his strengths are he is a decent battery to any Geo character, especially because all his particles for the most part will be being generated off field. There's really not much else to say about Albedo. He's a very simple character. He can put out solid damage. He has that 5-star. He's got that unique weapon coming out that will be incredible for him, because right now his best in slot is a 3-star, which is absurd. The fact that he's gone this long, over almost a year now that he's been out, and his best in slot that entire time has been a 3-star weapon. Now his best in slot will be a 4-star weapon. One day he'll have a good 5-star. One day. We'll get there. Maybe when they buff his hair, he'll have a good 5-star weapon. Moving on to Eula. Eula is an incredibly strong physical main DPS. One of the benefits about physical damage is you can do that damage to any target anywhere, and you know that it will be solid damage. Even against shields, you can do solid damage, not as strong as if you're doing, the elemental weakness that shield has, such as, Hydro on a fire shield or something like that, but you'll still do solid damage and be able to break shields with physical damage. She absolutely pumps damage. She is probably in the top 3 DPS, next to Ganyu and Hu Tao. Probably Eula is right after that. A lot of the strengths of her kit is she has physical damage shred. She has incredible burst damage with her elemental burst. One of the highest scaling elemental bursts in the game, if not the highest, if you can build stacks properly with it. Some of the problems with her though is it can be hard to time your burst. A lot of bosses, because her normal attack damage is so strong, a lot of bosses can die, especially a lot of the world bosses can die before you actually get your elemental burst off. She is very energy hungry, can easily be solved with a cryo battery or Raiden Shogun in your group. Raiden Shogun is amazing for Eula, can instantly get back her burst after finishing off Eula's burst. It's great. It can also be sometimes difficult to time if you've got enemies that teleport, just so happens to end right as the 7 seconds for her burst building is up, and your sword drops and enemy teleports. There's really nothing you can do about it, and that damage can be wasted as well. You can easily work around that. If you think they're going to teleport soon, you can end the burst early and not do as much damage, but you still blast them for a ton of damage. In terms of if you should be wishing on these banners, Albedo is a very niche character. He can be really strong with other Geo characters, and that's pretty much it. Albedo and Xiao can be good together with his Constellation 4, with the 30% damage buff to plunging attacks, but the only problem is you have no interaction between Geo and Anemo, so you're going to get 0 swirl damage. It's gonna be, I don't know, if you want to be swirling while doing those plunging attacks on Xiao, you're not gonna get it with Albedo. So he's kind of niche. He kind of really just goes with all Geo users, and that's about it. So in terms of who you should be pulling for, in terms of the first banners, I'd probably be leaning more towards Eula. She's more versatile. She can be powerful in almost all situations, besides from situations where characters are immune to physical damage, but that's rare. Even if enemies have high physical resistance, Eula has so much physical damage shred that it's just bypass all of it. I think the highest physical damage shred is Ruin Guards, and they have 70%. You can get past that with just Super Conduct and Eula's elemental skill level up to 10, right? That's going to give you 65% physical damage shred. There's no enemy that Eula cannot take out. I use her in Spiral Abyss all the time for the last, few months. 12-3 has always had ruin enemies in there. I use Eula all the time in there. She still absolutely destroys those enemies. All around, super solid DPS. If you are in need of someone who is a DPS, she's not someone that you need her weapon for at all. Any Claymore really does the job with Eula. She's incredibly strong. Moving on to Arataki Ito and Goro, we get a little bit more speculative. All I'll talk about, there have been leaks, but all I'll talk about is things that we know from the live stream. We saw Arataki Ito's burst. It infuses his attacks with geo damage, and he gains an attack speed buff, and he has his superlative strength stacks things that he'll like unleash in the middle of his attacks. I think during his charge attack volley or whatever it is. Overall, Arataki Ito seems pretty niche. Obviously, Gorou is on that banner as well, which will help Arataki Ito. Albedo, Arataki Ito, and Gorou all together will be a very, very strong team. Arataki Ito on his own, though, if you're not getting Albedo with Arataki Ito, I don't know. I don't know who you're gonna throw in. Okay, let's actually start with Gorou, because Gorou is such an insanely niche character. All right. He can only work in 2 comps, really, if you're talking about optimal comps. Arataki Ito as main DPS, Albedo as support, Gorou as support, and then someone else thrown, and then a number 4 thrown in there. It could be other Geo or, Bennett. Obviously, elemental reactions don't really do much for Geo, or really anything for Geo, so you might as well throw a buffer like Bennett in there. So it's kind of really your only option. You can throw a 4th Geo user in there, but Gorou's not great for other Geo users like Zhongli or Ningguang. You can use Noelle, but Noelle and Itto are going to clash with each other because both of their bursts require them to be on field to use them. Noelle and Itto are very similar to each other. Their bursts both infuse their normal attacks with elemental geo damage, and then they stay on field and they do their normal attacks, and that's their burst, right? That's one comp, and the other comp is Noelle instead of Itto, and that's it, right? You could throw Ningguang in there or Zhongli or things like that, but they're not going to benefit from Gorou's buff, because this is what Gorou does. Gorou buffs defense first if you have 1 Geo, so that only works with characters that scale with defense. So maybe instead of Bennett, you throw Xinyan in there, but you're really not going to need Xinyan, especially because of how bugged her shield is. So it doesn't actually work properly. Her elemental skill doesn't work properly. So the only characters that Gorou will ever work with his main buff is Noelle, Itto, and Albedo. That's it. So he is super, super niche. When you get 3 characters, you get up to, I don't know if they've said, but you get a small percentage Geo buff when you have 3 characters. 2 Geo characters in the group, you get increased resistance to interruption. So Gorou, super niche. He's only going to work with a main DPS Noelle or a main DPS Arataki Ito. You have to have Albedo as a support in there to get full utilization. Arataki Ito now. He's really cool looking. And what they showed us, his elemental burst is very flashy. He's super cool. His character is badass. Unfortunately, he has little spaghetti noodle arms. Please physically buff Arataki Ito. Please. But he's kind of just, his elemental burst is kind of just a flashier Noelle burst. Noelle's a super cool character too, but if you don't like Noelle's playstyle, you're probably not going to like Arataki Ito's playstyle. The difference is Noelle has the ability to heal and shield, while Arataki Ito's elemental skill allows for additional geo damage output. Is really the only difference. The elemental bursts are practically the same. Arataki Ito just has a flashier and faster burst. And we'll see when the numbers are fully out on what the scaling is, but I plan to make a video on C0 Arataki Ito versus C6 Noelle. We'll see what those numbers end up finally looking like. If you just want to try to grab a Gorou, 30-40 pulls on Arataki Ito's banner, try to grab a Gorou, and you want to build a main DPS Noelle, he'll be a great support for that. Arataki Ito, that's kind of his team, is going to be Gorou, Albedo, himself, and someone like Bennett. And that's pretty much it, right? He's not going to have a lot of versatility in terms of what teams he can have. Especially if he has Gorou as a support, he's going to need Albedo or another Geo character that is not going to benefit from Gorou as much. Arataki Ito's comp, he pretty much only has one comp. So if you're not willing or don't have those characters to build that comp, Arataki Ito, he'll still be good, but he will not reach his full potential. Out of all of 2.3 characters, we don't know 100% yet on Arataki Ito and Gorou, but just based on what we've seen so far, my guess is Eula is going to be the best character that you can be bringing home, as well as the easiest character to build. Shenhe and Yunjin got announced. I'll be making a video on them soon about what we know about them so far. It'll mostly be lore related and what those implications for 2.4 means. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, who you'll be pulling for, if you're saving, skipping. Link to my Twitch, all my other socials is going to be down below. Follow me on my Twitch. Come ask me some questions if you have any. I'll be happy to answer for you. So I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.